I'm Dr. Connie. I'm your host of Mind Your Health podcast. I share my unique perspective both as a practitioner and a patient battling autoimmune condition for over 25 years because I had to figure things out on my own, and my education in my practical approach as a patient allows me to truly integrate it so that you can be whole and the burden of sick care is no longer your own burden to carry. And this is what we help you with in this podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Dr. Connie, and today's Mind Your Health podcast is all about healing relationships by healing ourselves. This has been a topic in my heart for so long, and I will tell you all about my story. And those of you who have chronic illness or loved ones that have chronic illness that you feel like there's just a lot of barriers in communications, this is the episode for you. This comes from my heart, but ultimately it's going to lead you back towards the path where we all can communion and have more communication and be more effective in delivering the true communication, and you as a patient to be seen as well as to see the person who is going through perhaps what I've gone through, which is a very lonely path to say the least. Because when I was diagnosed with lupus 28 years ago, that was a long time ago, I knew it would change my life, and I did. But I didn't anticipate how deeply it would impact my relationships. And at the time, I thought the biggest challenge would be to manage the physical pain and symptoms because there were a lot of things that were coming up for me. But as the years passed, I realized that the emotional toll of feeling misunderstood by those around me was just as heavy, if not heavier. And it led to having more stress. Because chronic illness has a way of isolating you, even from the people you love the most. And I often felt like no one could truly grasp what I was going through. And while some tried to support me, others didn't know how to. And I could feel the distance growing between us, and there's nothing I can do about that. And there were times where I would push through pretending to be okay when I wasn't, just to make others feel more comfortable, because the deep and heaviness of being sick kind of takes a toll on other people as well. And over time, I realized this wasn't just about the illness itself. It was about the deeper wounds that had been there all along, shaping not only my relationships, but also how I saw and treated myself. So yes, illness does affect relationships, and living with the chronic illness is more than just a physical battle. It's an emotional one. And as my health deteriorated, I found that my relationships became more strained. My loved ones often didn't really know how to react, and some distanced themselves, which felt really isolating for me, and it was really hurtful, not out of malice, but because they didn't know what to say or how to actually help. Others tried to support me, but it wasn't always the kind of support I needed. They'd say things like, "You're strong, you'll get through this. I know what you're going through." And while I appreciated their encouragement, I also felt even more because their words meant to uplift, which often highlighted the gap between their understanding of what was truly going on and what I may be going through, and what I was actually going through was my reality. Nobody had any idea. How could they? But here's the thing. I was carrying wounds long before my diagnoses, and my illness just brought them to the surface. And there was a part of me that was always seeking validation from others, wanting them to understand me, to see the depths of my pain, to acknowledge how hard I was fighting, and all I wanted was to be understood. And when they couldn't, it hurt me. I felt abandoned and unseen, even by the people closest to me, and that included my family. But what I didn't realize at the time was that this need for external validation was actually keeping me from truly healing, both emotionally and physically. It was only hurting me. So I needed to really discover my deep wounds And then I learned some hidden lessons along the way that this is really what this podcast is all about. Because as I navigated lupus, the kidney failure, and ultimately a failed transplant, I began to realize something so profound. The isolation I felt wasn't just because of my illness. It was tied to deeper wounds I had been carrying for years. Wounds of feeling unworthy, of not knowing how to care for myself emotionally. I had been so focused on managing my physical health that I had actually neglected my emotional well-being. I reached a point where I could no longer ignore the fact that I needed to take better care of myself, and I needed to take care of myself first. I had to learn how to show up for myself, to give myself the love and care I had been seeking from others. I had to learn that for myself. And this wasn't just about physical self-care, although that was important too. It was more about learning to accept myself as I was, imperfections and the sickness and all of it. It was about acknowledging that I had been looking outward for validation when the real healing needed to really come from within myself. And so really this path was the journey to self-care and forgiveness ultimately. Because this journey towards self wasn't easy at all. And it didn't happen overnight. It took years of self-reflection, of digging deep into the emotional layers I had buried under my physical symptoms. And I began to practice real self-love. I had to learn this from scratch. And it's not the kind that's about indulgence or pampering, but the kind that's about sitting with yourself in the darkest moments and offering yourself compassion. I had to learn to forgive myself for the times I had pushed myself too hard, for the times I had neglected my own needs in favor of others' comfort. And I had to forgive others too for not understanding, for not always showing up in ways I wanted or needed them to. It was a difficult process for sure, but the more I leaned into it, the more I began to feel a weight lift. And I started to understand that I didn't really need anyone else to fully comprehend my experience for it to be valid. If it was valid for me, that was good enough. And my healing wasn't dependent on others' understanding or approval. It was something I had the power to nurture within myself. So let's talk a little bit about forgiveness, because this took the longest. And it took the longest for me to really understand. Because forgiveness is really letting go of the need for others to understand. One of the most freeing realizations that I had was that no one can fully understand what it's like to walk in my shoes, and that's okay. For so long, I have been holding on to this expectation that others should get it, but they should understand the depths of my pain and the exhaustion, the fear that I was going through every single day, not realizing they all had their own lives to live. But the truth is, no one could fully understand. And I realized that holding on to that need was keeping me stuck for myself. Once I let go of that expectation, though, something shifted. I was able to realize or release the resentment that I had been carrying. I forgave the people in my life for not always knowing how to be there for me in the way I wanted, because that was me not able to communicate with them and them not knowing how to do it for me. I needed to forgive them for not fully understanding my journey, because how could they? It was mine to walk. This is my life, my illness. And this forgiveness wasn't just for them. It was really for me. It allowed me to move forward, to start healing emotionally in a way that was deeply transformative. So I really want to say, I used to get goosebumps when I said it, but self-love is really, truly the key to healing. What I've learned through this process is that true healing starts with ourselves. We can't expect others to carry our pain or to fix for us. We have to show up for ourselves and offer ourselves the love and care we so often seek from others. It's about forgiving ourselves for the ways we may have fallen short, and forgiving others for not always being able to walk beside us the way we wanted. And the most profound part of my journey wasn't just learning how to manage my illness. It was learning how to love and care for myself despite it all and not being defined by it. And in so doing, I've been able to heal in ways I never thought possible, and I actually love this version of me so much more. I'm truly authentic, truthful, and I really deeply care for people, and it doesn't matter how they treat me anymore. It's all about me holding myself to what I want to be held to for myself. And really, at the end of this, relationships are still so important. And those that matter, I work on communicating my needs. And those people that are my people that are there with me every step of the way. And I know that. And that's been the most awakening and revealing thing about this. And I've come to realize that the most important relationship I have, though, is the one with myself. And when we learn to love ourselves truly and deeply, we create space for true healing and true relationships to bud, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So I just want to reach out to anybody listening to this episode who feels isolated or misunderstood, because as I understand it, that's most of us. I want you to know that healing is possible, but it starts with you. It starts with offering yourself the compassion, the care, and understanding you've been seeking from others. You give it to yourself. Once you do that, everything else begins to fall into place. Listen, I'm still working through it all. And no matter how bleak things seem at the moment, if you can just focus on the silver lining, like I'm so thankful for this opportunity to know what it feels like to be sick, to long for the healing to take place. Because I appreciate my healing. I appreciate my health every single day. And I count my blessings because I know what it's like to not be able to move in the way that you want and be there for the people you love. And when you look for the silver lining, the good in things and good in everything that you're going through, you'll know in the depths of your soul that you're really not alone. That all of us are all together one, and God is with you. And in this human experience, we're all together on this. So don't separate and isolate yourself. Just accept where you are. And I usually say you have to feel the pain and let it process. Know exactly where you are so that you can see clearly what you want to be. Not what you want to do, but what you need to be in order to achieve whatever it is that you want in this lifetime. Because for me, I'm in the pursuit of doing everything I can to empower each and every one of you to understand that healing is not something me as a doctor or a practitioner does for you and gives you insight. Our goal is really to allow you to prosper and heal and allow that space and time for you to really shine the mirror in you recognizing how amazing you are, honestly. That's what this work is all about. So you guys know that this week or next week or this month, really, it's my birthday month and we're opening the Functional Yoga Medicine Certification Program. And I am truly behind this program every step of the way. And because of my disappointments in the system, medical system, I realized there has to be a better way. And this is my life's work. It's only going to get better from here. I see this as a huge need in the marketplace today. So if you haven't done so, please click the link. We have the trainings. We're in the middle of it. We have the second one coming up tomorrow, and Thursday is the third one. We're going to have replays available. They're available now. So click the link to sign up so you can be in on this experience and see if you can really reclaim your energy, purpose, and health that you've been longing in this lifetime. I thank you so much for listening. Until next week, this is Dr. Connie, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Mind Your Health podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, we would so much love it and appreciate it if you share it with someone who could benefit as well as to subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else where podcasts are found. And leave us a review. We would be so grateful, and it helps us to reach more people just like you, so you can become more empowered to enjoy longevity and health. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Dr. Connie Chung. And of course, you can subscribe to this podcast for a new episode every single